Hi, welcome to this week's video. I thought I would start kind of a new series since it looks like the Chocolate Frog Cards event is here to stay. We just got our second season and we get to collect 3 more new Chocolate Frog cards to add to our permanent collection. And what I thought would be a cool idea is to look into who these wizards actually are, because only a few names amongst all of them really ring any bell from the books. Some we don't really know much about, so why not look into that? Why not learn what we're trying so hard to collect after all? Otherwise we're like Harry getting Dumbledore and like, whoo, being excited and we don't even know what for. So that's where we're actually going to start. The first 3 wizards that I'm going to be looking at. The first one is in fact Albus Dumbledore, and with him we definitely know who he is. We definitely know all that he's done, accomplished, etc. Even his shady and questionable past has been much discussed in book 7 in the expose. So when it came to trying to find something interesting and something unknown about him, it was really a challenge because everything is known. Everything's been already discussed. So I thought I would look at a few things that are kind of right in front of you, but you may not have looked into like the real meaning behind it. So one of the things that I will kind of discuss is his name, as in his full name, which is Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, because some aspects of his name have been discussed, like his last name Dumbledore. It is an old English name meaning bumblebee, and J.K. Rowling chose it because she imagined him walking around the castle or anywhere and just humming to himself, hence the bumblebee. His first name, also very easy to decode. Albus is a Latin word for white, so it pays homage to all the other kind of white wizard figures in other stories, like you've got Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, or you've got Merlin, you know, those old white-bearded figures who have all the answers, you know. But then his other names may not be as easy to decode. I mean, Percival is still rather simple because we're told in book 7 that that was his father's name, in fact. What's not mentioned in the books is that it was also the name of one of King Arthur's knights, adding to that noble, majestic kind of vibe that Dumbledore seems to carry. Then we've got Wulfric, and that one means wolf power, and it's a subtle reference to the legendary hero Beowulf, mostly because Beowulf in his early years slew the monster Grendelwald, quite similar sounding, obviously a reference to Dumbledore and Grindelwald's duel in 1945. So that name alone kind of captures an entire chapter of Dumbledore's life. And then my personal favorite, which is Brian, which on the, like, next to all the other ones stands so much out of place, yet it's supposedly the most normal and casual name of them all. So I immediately think of Life of Brian, you know, Monty Python's movie, because once again, you've got this religious biblical story and they go and name the main character Brian. But once I looked into the name itself, it's not actually that casual. I mean, it is commonly used. That's the one thing. It's actually a really old name and one of the very few that are still commonly used today. However, when it comes to the meaning, it's not common at all. It actually means majestic and powerful. So once again, it actually does 2 things at once. One, it still carries that Dumbledore vibe. It still gives you a sense of who he is as a person. And because the name is so kind of quirky and muggle-like for most wizards, it then also kind of tells you a little bit more about Dumbledore's personality, because we know that whilst he was incredibly intelligent when it came to magic and very skilled, he also had a thing for knitting patterns and some other muggle things that you would find a bit strange if you were a wizard and you looked at him, from the side. So that's his name. The other curious thing that I found was the other titles that he holds, because it's mentioned over and over again that he has other positions, that he plays this bigger role in magical society, but at least I never really paid attention to what those titles really stood for. So one of his positions is Supreme Mugwump of the International Confederation of Wizards, and that essentially is the wizard equivalent of being the head of the United Nations in the Muggle world, which sounds like a really, really big and important position to hold. Same as being Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot, which is the Wizard High Court of Law. And that made me wonder why a headmaster of a boarding school in Scotland, who presumably was being one of the most powerful wizards in the world, has openly admitted that power is one of his great weaknesses, if maybe only weakness, and that is why he stays as only a headmaster of a boarding school rather than being the Prime Minister of the UK. And I say Prime Minister, but essentially the Minister of Magic, it's still the same as being Prime Minister of UK, just for the wizards. So for him, that's too big of a position to hold. He'd rather stay as a headmaster. But he didn't find an issue being the head of the basically wizarding world. So that's a bit strange. I don't know if one should look even deeper into this. Is it just an irony? Are those honorary positions? Hard to imagine something like that being an honorary, honorary degree. I would still assume that those positions come with a lot of responsibility and a lot of power. So why Dumbledore had those when he knows that power is a kind of bad thing for him? I don't know. But hey, something to think about, something to mention in the video. Next up, we have another headmaster who definitely does not reach Albus Dumbledore's heights. It's Armando Ditlev. In fact, it's kind of hard to explain why he has a card in the first place. My theory is it's more to do with the time that he lived in rather than his personal accomplishments. I mean, the only interesting thing that I could find about him was his age, because for whatever reason, it's listed that he was born in 1637 and lived till pretty much end of 20th century. But it's not actually confirmed. It only shows up on a portrait that was made for the movies. J.K. Rowling never really confirmed or discussed his age at any point. Plus the fact that he was only headmaster of Hogwarts starting circa 1925 also makes you wonder, what did he do all the other hundreds of years before that? But since he started in 1925, it means that it was even after all the Newt Scamander drama, so he was not the one who expelled him. But he was headmaster whilst Tom Riddle attended Hogwarts, and that's where all the intrigue kind of comes in. So obviously he was headmaster when the Chamber of Secrets was first opened, which is also a huge event in the magical history, of course. So that is my theory why he has a card in the first place. Not any accomplishments, but just the time that he was kind of living in. And one curious thing I found was he died in exactly 1992, which is the year when Harry started his second year of Hogwarts, notably the year when the Chamber of Secrets was opened for the second time. Is that a coincidence? I highly doubt. But in general, if we summarize Armando Ditlev, we kind of have to use the quote from Glee. Being part of something special makes you special. That is pretty much the case with him. I mean, even his chocolate frog card simply states headmaster of Hogwarts prior to Albus Dumbledore. That's kind of a little bit sad, but also true. And last but not least, in today's video, we will be looking at Kirke. Now, from the Wizarding World perspective, we may not have heard of her because she doesn't show up in the books in any way. I'm not sure if her chocolate frog card is ever even mentioned. But if you're more familiar with the Greek mythology, you may know her at least to some extent. So, according to her chocolate frog card, in the Wizarding World, she was an ancient Greek witch who found joy in transfiguring lost sailors into pigs. When we look at the Greek mythology aspect, she was the daughter of Helios, the god of sun, and the ocean nymph Perse. She was goddess of sorcery, hence the magical connection, and using drugs and incantations, was able to turn humans into various different animals, including wolves, lions, and swine. And even the Greek hero Odysseus fell victim to her unique hobby upon visiting her island, though it seems like only his crew really paid the price. They were the ones who got turned into pigs, whilst Odysseus himself kind of befriended her, and in fact, they lived together and had children together, basically had a pretty good time. And of course, he also kind of eventually persuaded her into turning his crew back into their human form. So, she possessed a vast knowledge of potions and herbs, which you would have to be able to turn people into something else. And she also used a wand or staff. And yeah, being a somewhat vindictive woman, a lot of the time her incredible abilities were used on, well, ungrateful and appreciative lovers or their significant others as a form of revenge or punishment. I mean, girls gotta do what a girl's gotta do, I guess. Who knows, maybe they had it coming. So yeah, that is it for today. Next time I'll be looking at 3 other wizards, and then as we progress, as we build our collections, hopefully there'll be more to cover. Thank you for watching. I hope you like this kind of stuff, because I'm hoping to make it more of a weekly, semi-weekly thing. And I genuinely did enjoy all the research and looking up these wizards. There's some really interesting ones, to be honest, coming up. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.